You remember this thing? That chunky black brick in the middle of a laptop charger cable. Just a few years ago, it was everywhere. You'd buy a slim, modern laptop and still end up carrying this heavy little block around just to keep it alive. So why was it there? Because that brick wasn't just a lump of plastic. It was doing a much bigger job than most people realized, taking dangerous power from the wall, converting it, controlling it, and making it safe for your laptop. And if chargers are so much smaller today, that makes this old brick even more interesting. What exactly was it doing in there? Today on Simple But Surprising, we're opening the black box of a laptop charger. To understand this brick, you have to look at the problem it's stuck in the middle of. Wall power is AC. It swings back and forth 50 or 60 times a second, and it comes in hot, usually 110 or 220 volts. It's basically a fire hose coming out of your outlet. Your laptop isn't built for a fire hose, of course. The chips inside want DC power, steady, one-way, low voltage, predictable, often around 19 volts. If you plugged a laptop straight into the wall without this box, it wouldn't break. It would burn out immediately. So the charger's job is to keep two worlds from crashing into each other, high voltage AC on one side, calm, low voltage DC on the other. It's also the middleman that turns angry power into a gentle stream, and it pulls that off in 3 stages. The moment wall power hits the brick, it gets rerouted. First, it runs through a bridge rectifier. Picture 4 traffic cops at an intersection. No matter which way the current tries to swing, they force it to leave going the same direction. A C becomes DC, but it's rough DC, more like a jagged saw blade than a smooth straight line. And it's nowhere near ready for delicate electronics, so the capacitor jumps in to help. It looks like a tiny soda can, and it acts like a little buffer tank. When the voltage surges, it soaks up extra. When it dips, it pours some back out, so the power stops coming in little bursts. Actually, you can even hear it sometimes. You plug it in, and there's a tiny tick. That's often this front-end section waking up and doing its job. However, the power grid out there is unpredictable. It can throw quick spikes and jolts that can blow a component in the charger or fry the laptop's charging circuit, so the brick has to filter the mess and block the nasty stuff at the door. Before the charger does anything clever, it has to deal with the dangerous stuff first. Right at the input, there are 2 quiet protectors, a fuse and a varistor. The fuse is the sacrificial one. If something inside shorts out, it breaks on purpose and cuts power fast. Then there's the varistor, usually a MOV. Its job is to handle trouble coming from the wall. If there's a sudden voltage spike or even a surge from nearby lightning, it clamps that hit before it can reach the sensitive parts deeper inside the charger. This is the part most people never think about, until a cheap charger leaves it out, and the whole thing becomes a lot less safe. That's a big reason decent chargers can sit on the floor, get yanked around, run warm for hours, and still be safe enough to trust. And once the incoming power is under control, the charger can move on to the hardest part, taking that high voltage and stepping it way down. Back in the day, stepping voltage down always meant a huge, heavy transformer. If laptop chargers used the old school method, they wouldn't be a brick, they'd be a real brick, heavy enough that it would feel like you packed a dumbbell. So engineers solved the weight problem with a clever trick, the switching power supply. After the charger turns wall power into smooth, high-voltage DC, a tiny transistor starts switching it on and off at high speed, often tens to hundreds of kilohertz. And once the power becomes high-frequency pulses, a mini transformer can drop it down to what the laptop actually needs, around 19 volts. That's why the brick can be compact and travel-friendly instead of a giant chunk of metal. You think it's over? No. There's one more safety part inside the brick. It keeps the high voltage side completely isolated from the low voltage side you actually touch, the optocoupler. Like I said, the charger looks like 2 separate rooms. One side is high voltage, the other side is low voltage. The optocoupler is the feedback link between the two sides. It sends messages across the gap using light, an LED on one side, a sensor on the other, so signals can pass, but high voltage can't. That's how the charger keeps itself under control. If the output starts drifting too high, that light-based signal tells the switching transistor to back off, slow down, bring it back into range. And even if something goes wrong inside the brick, that isolation gap makes it much harder for wall power to jump over and reach you, or dump itself into your laptop's delicate circuits. And all of that non-stop work we just talked about is exactly why the brick runs a fever sometimes, hot enough to make you think, wait, is this thing about to explode? All that heat comes from the switching parts inside, the transistor and transformer doing rapid on-off work. If the brick can't get rid of that heat fast enough, it slowly cooks itself. So the charger is built to move heat away from those hard-working parts and out into the case, where it can escape into the air around it. That's why the brick feels warm during a long work session. You're basically touching the heat exit, not the danger zone. What you don't want to do is trap that heat. Tossing a charger under a blanket, pillow, or pile of clothes makes it much harder for the heat to escape, and that's when things can get risky. This is also one reason fake or low-quality chargers fail so often. Their heat management is usually much worse. Warm is normal, but if it gets so hot you can't comfortably hold it, you smell burning plastic, or it starts making loud buzzing, it's time to replace it. And that raises one more question. If that old brick had to do all of this, convert power, isolate it, regulate it, and dump heat, how did modern chargers suddenly get so much smaller? Thanks to better power technology, chargers have gotten smaller and smaller over the years. But that does not mean they are doing less work. A modern charger still has to tame wall power, convert it, regulate it, keep the dangerous side isolated, and control heat the whole time. The difference is that newer parts can do that job much more efficiently. They can switch power faster, waste less energy as heat, and fit into a much tighter space. That allows the transformer and other internal parts to shrink too. And in many of today's compact laptop chargers, especially USB-C ones, a big reason is GaN. It helps chargers run more efficiently and stay smaller than older designs built around traditional silicon. So the charger did not get smaller because the job became easier. It got smaller because the technology got much better at handling the same job. So the next time you toss a charger into your bag, you will know there is a lot more going on inside that little block than most people ever think about. Now I am curious, what is one everyday gadget you use all the time but have never really stopped to think about? Drop it in the comments. It might end up in a future video. This is simple but surprising. If you like everyday stuff explained from the inside out, subscribe and stick around. And if you are in a tech mood, tap the video on your screen about USB-C. It is a lot more interesting than it looks. See you next time.